Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my Python and MySQL crash course, or MySQL, however you prefer to pronounce it. So in this video, I want to show you how to use Python to connect to, how to create databases, how to create tables, run CRUD operations, so create, read, update, and delete data using Python and MySQL. Now, I do have a Python crash course for beginners if you need to kind of brush up or you need to learn the basics of Python. And then I also have a MySQL crash course as well if you want to learn more about queries, select, inserts, and all that. So you do need MySQL set up on your system. So if you go to mysql.com, go to downloads, we don't want enterprise, you want to go to community, and the community server, this is what you want. And then I would also suggest installing Workbench, which is a GUI that will allow you to view and manage your tables, your database, your fields, all that stuff, and it's cross-platform. So I have Workbench installed and I have it open here. So you can create your databases and tables and all that through here, but I want to show you how we can do that via Python. So I'm going to jump into VS Code, and this is the text editor I'm using. And I would definitely recommend using the Python extension if you're doing any kind of Python, so you want to install that. And when you have Python installed, you have access to the pip package manager, and you can install mysql-connector-python. However, I'm not using pip. I'm going to be using pipenv, which you can install with Homebrew if you're on a Mac. Basically, it allows us to just create virtual environments really easily. So I'm going to use pipenv shell, which is going to just generate a virtual environment for me to work in. And it creates a pip file that'll list any packages that I install, such as the MySQL connector. So from here, I'm going to say pipenv install mysql-connector-python, and that will install it, and it should show up right here in my pip file as well. But again, if you're not using pipenv, then you won't have to deal with that. You won't see that. So next, since I'm using pipenv, I need to select the correct Python interpreter within VS Code. So Command-Shift-P, and if I just type in Python and start to write interpreter, I can see it right here and choose it. Whoops, why did that happen? Okay, so I want to choose this right here. You can see the name of my folder and then pipenv. That's the interpreter that I want. That's the environment. And it'll just create this .vs code with the settings.json that just gives me the correct path to this virtual environment. So that's all this folder is. All right, so let's create a new file, and I'm going to call this database.py. So this is basically like our config. It's going to have our credentials and stuff like that and our connection. So let's first import mysql.connector, and then I'm going to have a variable called db, which is where I'm going to put my connection. So mysql.connector, and then there's a method called connect, and you can pass in user, root, and so on. But I'm actually going to create a dictionary with those values called config. So in this config, I'm going to put my user, which is going to be root. So I'm using my root user and my password. So when you set up MySQL, it should ask you to put in a password for root. That's mine, but you can put obviously put your own in. And then host is going to be local host, and then you can also add database here, but we don't have one yet, so I'm not going to do that yet. I want to show you how we can create a database with Python. Now we want to pass this in. Since this takes in keyword arguments and config is a dictionary, we need to add this double asterisk here to allow us to do that. All right. Now we also need to create something called a cursor, which is used to execute queries. So it's kind of like a pointer. And the way that we create this is by taking our connection and then just calling cursor like that. Okay, so that's our database file. That's our connection. Now I'm going to create a setup.py, and this is where I'm going to show you how to do things like create a database and create tables. And you should really only have to run this once, because once you have these things created, you can then work with your data, insert data, and so on. So first thing I'm going to do is import mysql.connector, and I want to take from the database file that I just created, I want to import the cursor because I want to use that to do certain tasks or to execute certain queries. So here I'm going to put my DB name inside of a variable. Let's call it Acme. You can call it whatever you like. And then let's create a function to create a database. Okay, so we want to say create database, and then from here we can take our cursor and we can call execute, which will do just that. We can put in SQL queries in here, and I want to run create database, and then our database name, which I'm going to use string format, so we want to put just an empty set of curly braces and then dot format and then our DB name. Alright, so just this here will create the database, but I want to add a couple other things. I want to say if not exists, so it'll only create the database if it doesn't exist. And then after the curly braces, I just want to set the default character set. Oops. Default character set, and then in single quotes UTF-8. Alright, and then let's just do a print after this, and we'll say database created, and we just want to add a dot format and the DB name. Alright, so then we'll run create database. Oops. And let's save this. So to run this, I could say python setup.py, that'll run the file, or I can go over here to my run and debug and just click play, and we get database Acme created. And if we go to MySQL Workbench over here under schemas and click reload, you can see Acme. There's no tables or data or anything, but the database has been created through Python. Okay, so pretty simple. We create a connection, we create a cursor, we execute a create database command, and that creates the database. Now for the tables, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to actually make it so we can create multiple tables if we want, even though we're only creating a single table. It's going to be a table called logs that will have an ID, a text field for the log, a user, and a date field. But what I'll do is just initialize tables as an empty dictionary, and then any table we want, we can just create, like, table logs equals, and inside parentheses here we want our create table statement. So let's say, actually I want to do all caps here, create table, and then inside backticks logs, and then I just want to put my opening parenthesis because I want to put this on multiple lines so it's readable. Alright, so the next line here, we're just going to have a space, and then the first field, which is going to be ID, and then the type, so it's an integer, 11 max, I should say 11 characters max, not null, and then we want it to be auto increment. Okay, we want to put a comma in here, and then we'll copy this down. This will be the next field, which I don't want to be auto increment, and this is going to be text. This will be the log text, which is going to be a variable character, or varchar 250 max. Alright, and then we'll copy that down. We want a user. Okay, copy that down. We want created. So created is actually going to be a date time field. Date time, not null. And then we want to set a default of the current underscore timestamp. So that'll put the current date and time right in there automatically. Alright, and then under that, we just want to specify that we want a primary key, and we want the primary key to be the ID. Alright, and then on the last line here, let's close. So we want a closing parenthesis, which is this, create table logs. This is the closing parenthesis, and you could add more fields in here if you want. And then I just want to specify the engine type, which is going to be InnoDB, like that. Alright, and that should do it as far as our table. Now, of course, you could create more. You could put, like, users or whatever, however many tables you want. You could also add foreign keys and relationships and stuff like that, but I don't want this to be too complicated. And this obviously doesn't do anything. We're just setting this up so that we can then execute our query to actually, create the tables. So let's go down here and let's create a function called create tables. And the first thing we want to do is use or select the database, because it won't know which database we're talking about. So we want to use our cursor. We want to call execute, and we want to just say use and then the database name. So db_name. So that'll use the Acme database. And then as far as creating the tables, since we're going to have, or have the possibility to have more tables, we need to loop through them. So we're going to use a for in loop. So let's say for, call this table name in tables, and then we're going to set table description equal to tables, and then whatever that specific table name is for that iteration. Obviously we only have one, but you could have more. And then we're going to actually put this in a try block. So try except, and I just want to print out that we're creating the table here. So let's say print creating, we'll say creating table, we'll just put it in parentheses, and of course we want to format, and this will be the table name that we insert into these curly braces. So it'll say creating table logs, for instance. Now I don't want a new line, because when you print, by default you have a new line. So I'm going to add a named parameter here called end and just set it to an empty string, okay, or a keyword argument. And then of course we need to execute. So let's say cursor dot execute, and we just want to execute the table description, and that will go through and try to create the tables. Now if something goes wrong, we have this except here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in up top, I'm going to say from MySQL dot connector, I want to import error code, because we want to check to see if one of the errors is if it already exists. So let's see right here for this except, let's say MySQL dot connector dot error as ERR, and then here we're going to have an if statement. Let's say if the error dot ERRNO is equal to error code dot, and the error code we're looking for is ER underscore table underscore exists underscore error. So if it's that error, then I just want to print out already exists, and let's just put a space right here, because it's going to come after this. So print already exists, and then let's just have an else, because if it's some other error, then we'll just go ahead and I guess we'll just print error.msg, and we'll just print that error out. All right, so now we want to create tables and save. Clear this up, and we could run this. Let's run this file. So we get database Acme created, creating table logs. I mean, we could have put like created or something, but well, no, creating table logs, and we didn't get any errors. So let's check out Workbench. Let's reload this, and now under tables we have logs. Under columns we have all of our fields. Okay, we don't have any data here. If I go select rows, it's empty, but we do have at least we have the table created. So now let's go back into VS Code. We can close setup because we already have everything set up, and under config, let's now add database Acme, just so we know what we're working with. And now we'll create a new file to do all of our operations. So I'm going to create main.py, and in here is where we'll do all of our CRUD stuff. So let's bring in from our database file. I want to import the cursor and also the DB, the connection itself. And let's create our first function, which will be add log. And I want to be able to type in the text and the user into this function. Okay, we don't need to put the ID because it's auto increment, or the date because it has a default of the current timestamp. And let's set a variable for our SQL and set this to insert into logs. And we want to insert the fields we want are text and user. Okay, and then we want the values. Now, values. Instead of putting the values directly, we want to put some placeholders in here. So just %s for our placeholders, because when we run the execute, we can actually put in what we want to replace this with. So right here, let's say cursor dot execute. I'm going to execute the SQL we just created, and then we want to replace our placeholders with a tuple of text and user. And what I mean by text and user is whatever's passed in here. Okay, now this isn't going to actually put it in just yet. We need to take our connection and commit, and that will insert it. And then I'm going to get the log ID, because what we can do is take our cursor and we can call last row ID, and that will give us the last inserted ID. So then we can just print out to the console, and we'll say added log, and let's do format, and then we can put in the log ID. Okay, and that should do it. So let's save that, and then down here we'll go ahead and run an add log and put in a string. We'll say this is log 1. Let's see, Brad, copy this down. Just put in some other names here. Alright, so let's save this, and now we'll run this file. Okay, so we get added log 1, 2, and 3, and if we look at Workbench and let's see, if we click the lightning bolt here, it should make a query. I don't know how to make this bigger, guys. Sorry about that. I know that it's small. But you can see that we have all of our logs in our database. All right, so pretty simple. Now, to get logs, let's just comment this out because we don't want to keep running that. But to get logs, let's create a new function. So get logs, it's not going to take any parameters. We're just going to set our SQL here to select, let's say select all from logs, and we can do like order by created and descending. So then we'll cursor dot execute SQL. We don't need to put anything else because we're not inserting, we're just fetching. Now we want to take a result. We're going to create a variable called result, and then we take our cursor, and there's a method called fetch all, which we want to call, and then we'll just have a simple loop here. We'll say for row in result, so we're just looping through the result, and then let's go ahead and print. Let's print row. Yeah, so we'll save that. And then down here, let's just run get logs and then run the file. And there we go. We can see each row. And if we wanted to print out like, so it's just a tuple. If we want to print, if we want to see like the text, so this is 0, 1, 2. So if we do row 1 and we run this, now we just see the text itself. Okay, so if we want to get a single log, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to copy get logs, and we'll call it get log. And let's say select, actually we're going to pass in an ID, and we'll say select all from logs where ID equals, and then we're going to use a placeholder here, and then when we run our execute, we're going to add as a second parameter a tuple with just the ID. Now since it's just one value, we need to have a hanging comma, and then instead of fetch all, I'm going to use fetch one, which will just fetch a single result. So let's save that, and let's just print out the whole row. So we'll go down here and let's comment that out, and let's say get log, and we'll get the log with the ID of 2. I'm just going to clear that up and play, and there we go. So we get the ID. There's the ID. It looks different because we used fetch 1, so it's just a single row. It's not, you know, an array of rows. So that's how we can get a single. Now let's do update if we want to update a log that's already there. So I guess I'll copy. Let's copy this add log. All right, so let's call this update log, and what we're going to pass into update log, I don't want to update the user, just the text, because the user shouldn't change. So let's pass in ID so we know which one, and then the text. And then for this, for the query here, let's say update logs, and we want to set the text value to a placeholder and say where ID equals %s, and then when we execute the SQL, we want to pass in the text and then the ID. Okay, and then we want to commit, and we can't use last row ID, so instead let's just let's get rid of that, and let's just print, we'll just say log updated. All right, and then let's go down here and let's comment that out, and let's say update log. Let's update log 2, and then the text will change to just updated title, or not, let's say updated log. Okay, and then after we run it, let's run get logs again, just so we can see. Okay, we'll go ahead and play that. So log updated, and then this is log 1. So log 2, the text has been updated to this updated log. And if you want to double check here, updated log. Okay, so we're able to update the text. Now the last thing I want to do is delete. So let's just grab this, and we'll call this delete log. And delete is just going to take an ID. So let's change this to delete from logs where ID equals placeholder, and then when we execute, we just want to pass in ID like that. We want to commit, and then we'll say log removed. Okay, so now I'll go down here and we'll comment that out, and then let's say delete log 2. Okay, so we'll run this and log removed, and now you can see there's only 1 and 3. And if I go to Workbench and I run this again, we only have IDs 1 and 3. All right, so I mean, we created a database, we created a table with the ability to create multiple tables, and we have CRUD functionality. So obviously, I mean, this isn't a full app or anything, but it just shows you how to deal with MySQL with Python. So if you want to build some kind of tool, some kind of CLI, or some kind of web app, or whatever it might be, anything at all, and you want to deal with MySQL, it's pretty simple. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this little crash course, and I will see you next time.